Welcome to Marcos and James, the Lisbon Pirates podcast. Good morning, Tiago. How are you doing
Good
today?
morning. I'm good. I'm good.
Or shall I say James? Should we stick to
Yeah.
character this morning?
I don't know if I'm that different here at the podcast or anywhere else. So yeah, you can call me Al. Remember that song? Yeah.
If I called you James on the street, would you respond?
uh, Ruth, my wife, she used to call me James.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah, at some special occasions probably. But yeah, right. If
Does she
yeah,
call you James when she's really mad at you? Like, James?
No,
No.
no, no. It was the opposite. When we began dating, I think she memorized my number
Oh,
and put it under
under
James.
James.
Yeah.
That's
So
like secretive, so nobody would find out
yeah,
that you were dating.
yeah. Because when we began dating, it was. I'm not going to tell you about that, but yeah, it was a kind of a secret.
Yeah?
Yes.
Well, yesterday was a holiday,
Yeah.
right? What was the holiday? How
Yeah,
did we celebrate?
it was, we say here, 25 de Abril, so April the 25th.
Yeah.
And so 43 years of democracy in Portugal.
Wow, wow. So, with yesterday being a holiday, what do people do to celebrate it?
Yeah. If you want to go, if you want to do it the way you should, probably you should go to Avenida da Liberdade, Liberty Avenue, and go all the way with all the people with how do you say cravo?
Right, with the
With the flower. With the
what
red
do we call
flower.
those?
Ca-
Carnations.
Carnation. I think it's
See, this is the
carnation.
problem. When you ask me a question, all of a sudden, I don't know right away. I have to switch my brain back to Portuguese and
Yeah,
then to English.
but I think it's carnation.
Carnation.
So
Yeah.
you should bring your carnation in your lapel. Do
Yeah.
you say lapel?
Lapel. Yeah, we use lapels.
Yeah, and that's I would say that's the typical way of you celebrating 25 de Abril.
Okay.
Yeah, you should do that. But generally, people doing that, they are more. They tend to be more politically aware and
Okay.
so more kind of left leaning.
Would it be also, is it more of the older generation that would continue to celebrate by going down, or does the younger generation, like my generation, your generation, do they go and celebrate as
Yeah,
well?
if we are talking about people from our generation, I would say they have to be more politically aware and more left leaning.
Okay.
And so I have lots of friends who go there. I saw some pictures in Instagram, and so some of my friends were there because they are very politically conscious, something
Okay.
like this.
So, here in Portugal, what would you say is the most important holiday?
The most important, probably you'd have to say, I would probably it would be politically correct for you to say or 25 de Abril,
Right.
April the 25th, or Portugal's Day, June the 10th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, one of those two.
Yeah, one of those two. And we still, there was this fuss some years ago because of losing our holiday in October, 5th of October,
Right.
because it's the day in 1910 where the Republic was founded after the monarchy.
Okay. In 1910.
Yeah,
And
1910.
was that the day that they killed the king?
Yes,
In the
exactly.
Praça, right,
Yeah,
downtown.
exactly, in
Okay.
Rocio.
Yeah, because we learned about this through our kids.
Yeah, in Rocio, I don't know if it's
No, no.
Rocio.
Was it in Praça Comércio?
Yeah, you're right. Sidonio Pais, he was the one who got killed in Rocio, I think.
We learned this from our kids when we first got here to Portugal, because our kids would learn about this story at school and they'd come home and tell us. And so Terza, our youngest, she probably was 4 years old. She came home from school and she said, "We killed the king! We killed the king!" And she was so excited. And me and Hannah, we said, "What?" And so she told us the story about how we killed the king. So,
Yeah, because in a way, at school you learn that having that king killed, it was kind of, it was a good thing. I don't know if it was a good thing, and right now you still have people going after people really believing that we would be better with a king. But of course, it's a minority. Yeah, but I can understand Thursday coming back from the school and celebrating that we killed the king. Yeah.
So, what do you think the biggest holiday in Lisbon is?
Then, yeah, you have this the Santo Antonio holiday, which is June the 13th. I'm saying first the month and then the day.
No,
I would just
that's
say,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We start with the
Yeah,
tune,
yeah,
and then
yeah. It's strange because we begin with the month. Yeah, and 3 de Junho. Yeah, it's Santo Antonio, and it's when you have all the not the parties, but festas de Lisboa.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So sardinhas
Yeah,
in the street. How do you say sardines?
sardines. Yeah, sardines in the street.
Yeah. So and that's pretty big, I
That's
think,
the big
because
one.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I would say that's my favorite here in Lisbon.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Every year we sometimes we go places to celebrate and and do the big sardinhada and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of times we'll just do it at the house, and so
Really?
we invite a bunch of friends over and just grill sardines.
You grill sardines
yeah.
in your house? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, on our balcony,
Yeah.
so we don't upset the. Well, maybe we upset the neighbors a little bit, but
But and do you make the sardines? You know how
yes.
to cook the
Oh yeah.
sardines? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So my
great.
Portuguese friends taught me how to do it, and it's very simple. You just throw some salt on it and then throw it on the grill,
Yeah.
and turn it with your fingers,
Yeah.
until your hairs on your hands get singed, right? But yeah, it's great. So a lot of times we'll get a couple of families together and have the sardines, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
One of my favorite
Yeah.
plates in Portugal is sardines.
Yeah. Yeah. I love sardines right now. When I was a kid, I think kids tend not to enjoy that much eating fish when they are growing up. But then you get probably in your late teenage years, and suddenly you just it's great. It's great. So right now, when spring begins in Portugal, everyone is hoping to get their hands on some good sardines.
Now, I've been told there's a season. So if you're in Lisbon, if you're visiting Lisbon or you live here, but you haven't been here that long, is there a season where you should be eating sardines?
Generally, right now, every time how do I say, you don't say I smell, because when you feel something in your nose.
Yeah, you
It's
could.
not
You could smell it.
But can you say
smell?
I'm smelling sardines?
Yeah, when you smell sardines in the streets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, how would you say?
when I smell sardines in the streets. Yeah.
Right now, you begin smelling sardines in the streets. So I guess it's pretty kosher right now for you to start.
So like springtime.
Yeah,
it's kind of when it becomes more.
Yeah, late spring.
Yeah.
Late
So
spring.
if I'm in Lisbon in January and I go to a restaurant and they have sardines on the menu,
I
is it
think
okay
you
to
can.
eat?
Yeah, I think you can eat them all through the year.
Mm-hmm.
But when you eat something, it's not only about what you're eating; it's about all the context, all the environment. And so that's why right now, with the sun shining, you always, at least I'm thinking about myself, but I always think about eating fish and having a good beer and hopefully. How do you say ao ar livre?
In the outdoors.
Yeah, in the outdoors.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe one of the most charming things about Lisbon. Is the outdoors, is the ar livre, the being out and experiencing the sound and the smells and just the people out on the street. And
yesterday we were having we went to Algés. Algés is a great place for people to go and just by the river, and we ate. I didn't eat sardines because they were not on the menu, but I eat carapaus. How do you say carapaus?
Carapau.
Carapau.
Carapau. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's the name. If you go to
I'm just
the
repeating
US.
it back to you.
Yeah, but they were small carapaus fritos, fried carapaus, and I was saying, I was telling Ruth, for this meal to be completely perfect, it would be great if we were outdoors. But right now we are completely in tune with sun is shining. You have to get some fish. You have to drink some beer probably. And
That's one of my favorite
That's
things
that time of the year.
is being out on the Esplanade.
Yeah.
That's where
Yeah.
How do we say Esplanade in English?
Esplanade. I don't know. How do you say in France? In Paris, there are lots of esplanadas. How do people have this really strong culture, being on
Like
their
the outdoor cafes or the
What's the name of it?
I don't know.
Yeah, but you've been in France, in Paris.
Yes, yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Yeah,
It's
I love that.
Lisbon is like France, but not so elegant and
It's
with
more,
the smell of sardines.
and it's more affordable.
Yeah.
That's one of the things
definitely.
I've noticed is that food and the price of a cafe or a croissant or something here is so much cheaper than in Paris.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the benefits as people come and they discover Lisbon and discover Portugal. They realize that it's very affordable.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a theme for this morning, don't we?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So the theme is, do you remember what it is?
I think it's where Americans love, Portuguese like.
That's right.
Isn't it?
Yeah, and so we're going to have to explain this a little bit more.
Yeah.
Where Americans love, Portuguese like. And it's an interesting theme. It kind of popped up over this last weekend as we were kind of talking. All our families were together. All the pastors' families were together at our house. And we were having kind of like a little retreat in the morning and talking and praying and thinking about the church. And this topic came up.
Yes.
And I've never laughed so hard in my life than I did Saturday morning with you guys.
Yeah. And we can handle it like I can be making you some accusations about some things about American people.
Right.
And my first accusation would be, you Americans love very easily.
Yes.
Yeah. You love everything.
I love everything.
Yeah. You love everything.
Because so I think that was what we were talking about, was the difference between how Americans love everything.
Yes.
And then what the Portuguese used to describe the same things.
Yes.
And so tell me a little bit about where you're coming from with that. What's when you say Americans love everything, what are maybe some of the things that you notice when Americans talk about what they love?
I'm thinking about, so I grew up in a Baptist church. So one of the exciting things when you are a Portuguese kid growing up in a Baptist church in Portugal is that lots of times you get people coming from the outside, like from countries like the United States of America and Brazil. And so picture this, more than 30 years ago, if you got someone from Brazil, there was no Brazilian immigration. And so at that time, if you got someone from Brazil, it was like you were going, again, like I was saying the last week, inside the movies, not the movies, but inside the telenovelas, because you only saw Brazilian people in your TV set. The same thing with American people. So I grew up listening to people coming from Brazil and the United States. And one of the good things about that is that, and in this sense, I would say that Brazilian people, they are like American people. When they come, they always say that they are very easily, they say that they love our country. I'm loving Portugal. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And so, and for us, we kind of don't trust when someone coming here so easily say that they love us or they love our country, because love is a pretty, when you use the verb love, amar, it's a pretty how do you say, exigent, demanding
heavy,
verb.
demanding,
yeah, it's
right?
demanding. So talking about loving things or loving people, it's something that we suspect that you Americans, why do you love so easily, Mark? Please explain.
Well, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to explain this very well, but I think you're right. I've noticed, just based on our conversations, is that we throw the word around very easily.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe a lot of it is maybe an overemphasis on terms or words being overly expressive as Americans. And so everything for us is it's almost like go big or go home. Do you know that expression?
I never heard it.
Oh, really?
Great.
This is great. So go big, go big, or go home. And it's kind of like all or nothing, right?
Go big or go home. Great. That's great. I have to use that. I have to.
So so maybe that's when Americans say, "I love this, I love that." It could be that just natural instinct to go for it, go for everything.
Yeah.
But the problem is that I think just from watching my culture is that the lines get very blurred. And so, for instance, I can say, "I love my wife, and I love my kids, and I love a cheeseburger."
Yeah.
Right?
You use the same verbs to talk about
Everything.
pizza or your family.
Right. And so I'm sure for a Portuguese, when you hear that, you go, "Wow, you love pizza and hamburgers just as much as you love your wife and kids."
Yeah, in a way we can be suspicious because of that. But at the same time, if I want to be fair, and I'm not saying that all Portuguese people are like me, but I would say that even talking about your wife or your family in Portugal, you'd be pretty uh, you'd not be throwing the word love
Okay.
because
Yeah. And so and that's actually what maybe brought this conversation
Yes.
up was we were talking about what do you call your wife or what do you say to your wife?
Yeah, we got to the place where for some reason we were talking about the way that we call our wives. Yeah.
So in Portugal, because this is very different, what do you say to your wife when you want to tell her how much you care about her?
I think I'm not a typical example because lots of people call love just amor. Yeah, I have lots of friends who, when they are calling their wives, they say amor, come here, please. So literally, it would be love, come here, please, and that's pretty common, I think. Me and Ana Ruth, we never use that kind of. Uh, but what I really what I, what I really love
you're more
talking,
American. Now
I'm
you're more
becoming
American.
an American during this conversation. But generally, I use the word mulher, and I have to explain this because that's the way my dad, Henrique Cavaco, calls my mom, Eunice Cavaco. So I grew up listening to my dad calling my mom mulher.
Okay.
And mulher, if you had to translate that to English, you can translate it like wife or like woman.
Right.
And there.
And that was a lot of confusion for us. I think for people coming into Portugal and learning the language, that's a lot of confusion because
Yes.
we think immediately that you're calling your wife woman, like woman, come here, woman.
And in a way, you're calling your wife that way. But now my explanation, I can always say that was the way that I learned listening to my dad. But there's one great thing about calling your wife woman or mulher. Because remembers me from that occasion when God creates Eve from Adam's rib. It's rib.
That's right.
And in Genesis 2, when suddenly, because Adam was bored and he tried to fight his boredom with giving names to the animals because God said that he should do that. But that's something that I love from Genesis 2 because, but after that, Adam is still bored. And that's when God creates Eve and he gets Adam to sleep, and suddenly Adam wakes up and he looks at Eve and he calls her woman. And there's this kind of awe. There's this awe in Adam. So I like to think that when I call a woman mulher, to Ana Ruth, I'm experiencing some kind of portion of that original awe. So it's not some woman, come and do this, but woman.
Well, maybe that's my problem. Is that I've tried this with Hannah, and it
And I
doesn't go
saw
well.
it. I saw
It
it.
doesn't go well because I say woman, but maybe I need to the tone that might need to change. I mean to say woman, right?
Yeah.
And maybe get more of a Portuguese flavor to it, right?
But and probably you should just remember Anna. Remember Genesis 2 when I'm calling you a woman. Do you know? And I don't know. I don't want to be shot. How would you say shot when we are being shot? Annoying. Yeah. But let me just say this because some years ago we with some friends of ours, Philip and Rita, and we were at their place and we were watching this movie. I had never seen it by that time. Wall-E from Pixar,
Right.
and Wall-E, it's that robot, and he's all by himself in planet Earth, and he's cleaning all the mess that
That's right. That the humans left.
Yeah. But suddenly comes this, how would you say, female robot?
Yeah.
And when I was watching the movie, the way that he reacts to the arrival of that female robot is just like in Genesis 2. And I was watching the movie and I was saying, oh, this is Genesis 2. And after that, the name of the robot, it's Eve. So I always think about Wall-E and calling my wife woman. It not in a machista way.
Right.
How would you say machista?
Yeah, like a macho, like
not in a macho way.
Right.
It's you kind of how would you say, you tu rendes-te, how would you say render? You just give up on the new dimension of knowing what a woman is. So that's the way, at least I'm kind of explaining the.
Well, I think that's great. I think you've explained it very well. I'm going to try to use woman now a little bit more.
But tell me, because you tried that, we were having this conversation and our wives were nearby, and suddenly Mark, just to make a test, he called Hannah a woman, and the look on Hannah's face,
it was priceless.
It was amazing.
It was priceless. Yeah.
Because Hannah just something was not working right when you called her woman.
Right.
But are there any Americans treating their wives and calling them woman, or that would just sound Neanderthal?
Yeah, I would say it would be more like caveman talk. It would be like, woman, make dinner. Woman, come here. Right. And so,
and you said the woman, I like you, because you were not allowed to say I love you.
Well, we were laughing because I was asking Tiago, I said, what do you say to Ruth, Ana Ruth? And he said, normally I say, eu gosto muito de ti, né? Eu gosto muito de ti.
But in special occasions, I use the L word.
Okay. But typically it's gosto muito de ti.
Yeah, I would say that if for instance, you were translating a movie, when you are translating a movie in Portugal, I think the majority of the times where the verb love is used, it would be translated like gosto muito.
Like I like you.
Or adoro-te in that sense, where, I like it a lot.
Right, right.
But you don't have much use to the verb you like, do you? Well, you have it on Facebook.
Well, we do. Yeah, exactly. Facebook has recaptured the like, right? I mean, we do. I think that, like we were talking before, the English language, and maybe just for Americans, they overemphasize love, and so typically everything is I love this, I love that, and so it's not necessary. I like would probably be a lesser degree of interest or commitment.
How would you explain, as an American guy? How would you explain? I don't know if it's but the American way of going after authenticity, because it has a lot to do with authenticity. Go big or go home.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Is this something that you really, when you come to Portugal, that you feel it's different?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think initially, you see the difference in not only vocabulary but even feeling, commitment, and so I think and correct me if I'm wrong, but where the Portuguese are a little bit more reserved, or take a little bit longer to get there to that feeling or that deep confirmation of what's happening. I think Americans are just much quicker. Now, granted, I would say that there's probably a lot to learn on both sides. I think Americans overgeneralize, overemphasize things, whereas we can learn to maybe be a little bit more reserved and not quite put so much emphasis on the same two things, like loving a cheeseburger and loving your wife. Being a little bit more cautious with what that looks like in our language.
Yeah, because in Portugal, and it would work. Probably it will work differently in other European countries, but making a broad simplification, I would say that in Portugal, we kind of our suspicion is about uh, thinking that probably when you say so easily things about what you feel, we will kind of think it's artificial. So it's a social construction. It's something.
Right.
Oh, it looks good when you say that. Generally, that's the way that we perceive, and probably that's why we are more reserved. And in a way, because you talked about the different rhythm, yeah, and I think it's a rhythm because in a way we will go slower, talking about ourselves, opening about ourselves, our lives, but then sometimes Portuguese people tend to think that culture's more, in a way, more easygoing in terms of expressing your feelings, then we feel that that's something that happens very quick, but then it stops. And for us, we kind of think, at least that's the way that we enjoy looking at ourselves. We think that, yeah, we go slower, but then we go deeper. And these American guys or even Brazilian people, they are very quick, but then they stop where we can go deep and deep. I don't know if
There's a certain complexity to the Portuguese soul.
I don't know if I'm being fair, but because in a way it's not that pretty about ourselves because we think that we are deeper people. And this is something that annoys me in Portuguese when we talk about American people in general. We think that we are deeper and they are shallower.
Right.
Shallower?
Shallow. More
More
shallow.
shallow. Shallower, could you say?
I guess you could say that.
You don't remember.
This is my big problem is that I think I'm losing my English. The longer I stay here, the longer I speak Portuguese day by day.
Probably people listening to us, they will be laughing from my mistakes. But
And my mistakes too. and I guess that's fine. That's just what happens. Yeah. We do laugh because, on a side note, we do laugh because the longer we're here, we realize that we're in no man's land.
Yes.
We're between two countries.
Yes.
So our English gets worse, and our Portuguese we hope gets better, but at the same time, it doesn't get as good as we want it to be. And so we kind of fall between this where we go, I forget the English words, but then I don't know all of the Portuguese words, and so you kind of fall in the middle of. But that's the language learner's difficulty, I guess.
And did you feel that during the time you and your family you're here in Portugal, that something about the way you feel changed, influenced by our way of being in?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think the longer that we're here, the more I think Portuguese we become, to be quite honest. And it's never, I think it's impossible for a person to come from a different culture and to completely be 100% Portuguese in this context. And so we understand that it's impossible. It's impossible for us to be completely incarnated here. This is just impossible. But I think what is interesting is that as the years pass, our thoughts and our feelings and the way that we talk and the way that we do things become markedly Portuguese. And so it's this kind of blending of our cultures into this almost new culture. And that's why it's interesting we call our kids third culture kids.
Yes.
Because they're not necessarily, and actually for me and Hannah, it's actually even more complicated. We're becoming good Portuguese because it's more complicated, right? Because me and Hannah, we grew up in Africa.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
You're more complicated Portuguese. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, because me and Hannah grew up in Africa, we were third culture kids. We're not our parents' culture, but we're not the Kenyan culture.
Just say that. Why were you raised in Africa?
Yeah. So my parents, when I was 1 year old, we went to Africa, and my father was a missionary. My parents were missionaries, and so he taught at a Bible college for 15 years in East Africa and Kenya, and Hannah's parents as well. And so we actually met there. We actually met in Kenya. So it's a beautiful story, really fun.
We'll have to have a podcast only for you to tell.
And we'll invite Hannah.
Yeah.
Right, to tell the story.
Yeah, to fact check.
Well, and that would be the scary part. She would need to fact check my story, right? So, but yeah, because of that, then we kind of grew up with this third culture. And then here in Portugal, we are raising kids who are that third culture kid as well, but even different, more complicated even than what we experience, because they have parents that are not necessarily of this culture, but they're being raised in this culture. But I would say with our children, they reflect more of Portuguese culture than we did of Kenyan culture.
Yes, and that's one of the, I would say it's for me, it's even moving. It's something that when we are with your family, of course you look very American, but after listening to you and Anna speaking in Portuguese, but then you hear the kids, the girls, and their Portuguese is just perfect. It's Portuguese. So, and I don't know how to explain, but there's something for me really important about that, about um, coming and belonging, because coming probably is easy, but belonging, it's difficult. And one of the things that I enjoy when I can. Sometimes there are people coming from the United States, friends of yours, belonging to the same, how would you say, junta missionaria?
Same mission or the same church, perhaps, or something.
And one of the good things is that when you're presenting them to someone from here, Lapa, we really feel that you're already in a position of belonging here. Yeah. So, of course, you remain an American, but you're already someone from Portugal, and yeah, it's great. Yeah. It's great.
And I would say for those that are listening that maybe are coming from a different culture and they're here in Lisbon, this takes a lot of time.
Yes.
It takes a lot of work.
Yes.
And it kind of plays into what we've been talking about this whole time, is that with the Portuguese people, as warm and accepting as they are, it does take some time, because like you said, there's a complexity there. When a foreigner comes and I love this, I love this, I love that, there still is maybe a distrust on the Portuguese side that takes a little bit of time to work out. And I think in the long run, what we've found is complete acceptance and complete integration, but it doesn't come easy and it's not quick.
Yes.
It's not fast.
And I don't know if this makes sense, but I would say that in Portugal, for you to be Portuguese, in a way, it's knowing your country and disengaging with it, because in America, in the United States, it's a young country, and being American is about believing in the United States of America, love it or leave it.
Right.
In a way,
good expression. Yeah.
In a way, in Portugal, it would be because you want to live it, you love it. It's more complex because of almost 900 years of history, and that's why when someone from the outside comes from this paradigm of I have to love this place so that I belong, in a way it works the other way around. So no, you have to learn how to hate your country so that you can be a fairly good patriot. Of course, I'm making lots of simplifications, but in a way it works like that. That's why if someone is all about Portugal and patriot,
is it suspicious?
Yeah. Of course it has to do with the dictatorship, and because during the 20th century with Salazar and all these ideas of being a good patriot, so Estado Novo really used that, and even the word patriot, it's a difficult word for us.
Really?
I would say in all Europe, but in Portugal particularly.
Right, and contrast that, of course, to an American idea of the word. A patriot is somebody that stands for the country, fights for the country, is a good citizen. Yeah, so there's that contrast there.
Yeah, and remember, we had to have this Euro Cup championship where Scolari was the treinador. How do you say the coach? Yeah, and you had to have a Brazilian calling Portuguese people to show their Portuguese flags, because we don't do flags here. In Europe, I would say that we don't do flags. doing flags is something natural for someone coming from a young country like
Right.
Brazil, or
Right.
because your flag here means a lot of things, and lots of times lots of difficult things for you. But then, yeah, Scolari made us probably, I don't know if we got more patriot because of that, but at that time I felt it was kind of exciting having to deal with this flag thing. Do you show your flag? Do you use your flag, or is it just awkward? Yeah.
What year was that? 2004?
2004.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you see a difference here in Portugal between 2004 and last year when Portugal won the Euro
Yeah,
Cup?
definitely. My friend Jorge Cruz is a musician. He has this band called Diabo no Cruz. And he used to say that that Mourinho and Cristiano Ronaldo were changing the way that we think about ourselves in Portugal, because suddenly you have these guys in football world, for you soccer world, but they were the best. So, and we in Portugal, we are not used to be the best in anything. And I would say that football has been helping us, at least knowing that in some things we can be the best. And when I was growing up, Portugal was not good in anything. Or so we went to the '86 World Cup in Mexico, and we were people. This country was crazy because we generally we would never go to the World Cup, to the World Series soccer, and so right now it's pretty common.
Yeah.
We won the Euro Cup, so
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, it was. Yeah, we don't know how to handle with a victory like that. So I would say that from 2004, we are a little bit different.
I will say that that was maybe one of our most exciting nights ever in Portugal.
Really? Yes.
Was when we won the Euro last year, and we all went down to Marrakech to Pombal. And it was a crazy festa. It was just, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people.
You were more patriot than we were, because we stayed at home.
But here was the most amazing part of the whole night. Okay, there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people in Marrakech to Pombal, just celebrating, cheering, honking the horns. It's just a huge festa. And all of a sudden we hear, Mark, Hannah, and it's Hugo and Sara from our church. And they saw us, and so we met right in the middle of this crazy party.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun.
And did you meet Harrison Ford?
And I heard that Harrison Ford was there.
Elaine from Seinfeld. I don't
from
remember.
Seinfeld. Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah.
What's her name?
I don't remember. I always think about Elaine.
Elaine. Yeah, there were a couple of celebrities in the crowd, weren't there?
Yes.
Yeah, so it was great. Yeah, that was a fun night.
Yes. And I almost cried during that game, because when Christian got injured.
Yeah, of course.
It was
heartbeaking.
Yeah,
just
and even that victory, I don't want to be over making symbols out of anything, but even the way that we won, we never win because. It's
complicated. It's complicated. Exactly.
Even think about Fernando Santos. The guy was saying that I know that we are going to win. It's not about our ability to win. It's because God told me. So it's even when you win, it's not because of your talent, of your knowing how to. It's because God had this thing for, I don't know, but it was great because it was not a beautiful victory. It was not even a good game, but that goal, what's the name of the guy that scored?
Eder.
Yeah, the way it's again, when Portugal wins, it's against everyone. I don't know how to explain that.
Right.
Yeah, it's against everyone, everything.
I always think it's interesting when a World Cup starts, or like the Euro Cup starts. We as Americans were very optimistic, and so we say we're going to win the whole thing, right?
No, you cannot do that.
No, nobody says. All my friends look at me like, probably not. And then here's my favorite.
That's part. Very un-Portuguese of you, Mark.
And then here's my favorite part. My favorite part of any sports competition, but this happens in all of Portuguese life, is that we get into it, we qualify, but then we get into it, and then we have to fazer as contas.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So explain what is that? What is fazer as contas?
Oh man, I never thought about that. Yeah, but it's probably because we never were good. We were never good making our contas, paying our bills, and so it, I don't know. Probably we have to make all these calculations so that we can feel that our victory is going to be merited. But yeah, you
And it's
always
so
have.
complicated,
Yeah, it's
right?
yeah, it's
So like
yeah.
if this team wins and if we
Yes.
draw and if this person, it's like this complicated scheme of
Yeah,
trying to figure out how it's going to work.
probably because we don't believe in ourselves, and so you have to. If someone is going to happen good for you, it's not necessarily because you are at you are right on the money. It's not because you are doing things right. It's because you are contemplating all the we would say todas as variáveis. You are contemplating
All the variables are
yes involved.
yeah.
So
And then there's one other big word that probably sums all of it up, and we should probably keep this one for another podcast, but it's the pulling of MacGyver. Because that's the essence
yes, we have to. Yeah,
of
we
the
we
Portuguese
have
spirit.
to talk about this. Yeah, pulling a MacGyver.
That's right. So what's the word in Portuguese?
Desenrascar.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's called pulling a MacGyver.
Yeah. Let's leave this for.
We're gonna leave this for a whole podcast because this is one of the most amazing things that I've discovered in the Portuguese culture.
Yeah,
a value even, if you will.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It says a lot about us.
yeah.
For how long have we been?
We're at 41 minutes, so this is great. So we should probably wrap this one up.
Yeah.
And
go.
yeah, so thanks for listening.
Yes.
Once again, we do want to leave our listeners with just an idea of who we are and what we do. And so as pastors of the church, Igreja de Lapa here, we want to say you guys are welcome to come and join us. We're here every Sunday.
11:30, and yeah, what Mark is saying is what I it's for you listening. It's what's necessary. We talk a lot because we are in awe about this thing about God calling all kinds of people. And God definitely has a sense of humor because He made us very different. All these differences about American people and Portuguese people, it's something that we enjoy talking about because we enjoy. You have to be very loving to be able to care for people being so different and not having that as a problem. This is it comes from grace. So probably you didn't understand that, but this is all about Jesus. All this conversation is about the love of Jesus and
that's right.
And God reaching us.
Yeah. So welcome, come visit us at Lapa.
Yes.
And we have the Portuguese service in the mornings once a month.
Yeah.
At the end of the month, the last Sunday of every month, we have an English service as well at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And so you're welcome. We'd also love for you to comment.
Yeah, because Sarah made a comment, Sarah Falcoeiras, about the cobblestone. So we are not talking about right now about the cobblestones, but next, Sarah, tune in because we'll be talking about your comment on the cobblestone.
Good, absolutely.
From last week.
That's right. So we want people to comment, and when we get some comments going, then we'll be able to kind of have a podcast where we can respond to them and respond to comments and questions. Anything, put a comment down on the YouTube account, and we'll see you at Lapa.
Yeah. See you.